I don't know, sometimes people when they come out of the cinema and they've seen a movie, they start talking immediately about the film. That's one kind of persons, and then there's another category of persons that comes out of the cinema and needs, let's say, a whole evening before starting talking about the movie they've seen. So I must say, I myself of this last category, so this is a difficult exercise, I think. I'm not sure if we do this in English, in French, in Dutch.
Everybody speaks the language of choice.
Yes, okay. So maybe this is a bizarre exercise for a research network that has been publishing a lot about crime and punishment and justice. So I could start with the question, what did you think about this movie? What is about Brussels, about youngsters? You will never walk again the same way in Gare du Nord, I think, or take the metro. Yes.
Well, as a German living in Brussels, each time as a visitor, I go to the same places they're showing the film, so, and I think I will do again.
I hope so. Yeah, but what does it say about what the movie is talking about?
It's a film, it's full of citations, and it shows very much the poetry of the guys who made the film, I think.
Okay. So it's just the poetry of the guys who made the film about Brussels.
Well, it's apparently sort of reflects Brussels realities transported into the poetry of the people who made this film. It's everything is there, sort of ganglands, the quarters, and this building, this group of buildings, which is placed the Fossenplain, which always show to people which are coming from Berlin, to show them sort of what's the difference between Brussels and Berlin and what's the resemblance of both. So,
okay. Anybody else? Any other thought? Are there any other criminologists in the room? There's a lot of theory in this movie.
I've got a question.
Yes.
Did you talk to the makers and did they say something about what they tried to achieve by making the film?
About this film?
Well,
no.
We talked about Iman.
The other one, yeah.
Did they say the same thing about this one? They just tried to make a thriller? But did you hear?
There is no.
No, there's no interaction with the.
At least they did. They said that they were not in a way. They were not. They were laughing at us because we were kind of seeing a lot of things in the movie, and we thought that was their message.
In this case, it's one type of violence. It's not all there is to see in Brussels. It's gang violence, and so I can't imagine that when they made it, they didn't try to make a point about it. So.
Yes.
I'm just wondering about the status of showing this film. So the question is not only what did they intend to do while doing this film, it's also what do you intend to do when you show us this film. So the question is, I deeply believe that scientists and artists have different and valid visions of the world. But my question would be, does anyone here had scientific knowledge about the phenomena that are described in the film and can eventually tell us about the difference between their perception as a scientist and the maker's perception? Because I don't have any tool to say this is unrealistic, it's just fiction, or this is realistic. So what's your intention? Yours?
Whoa. That's why I made the introduction. Maybe it was a bit chaotic, my introduction, but
No, that's perfect. No, it's perfect.
one of the things that I think is important with your question, the question, is a bit as if we scientists, we have the facts.
No, we don't.
And these artists tell a story. And there are a lot of youngsters of Brussels who went to the opening night of this movie, and there was a lot of police also there because of the youngsters who were there. So it does something, and I don't know, I'm just speaking about my field of work. Criminologists have tendency, as I said, to kind of, not all, it's changing, but we kind of, the facts, as if the facts tell another story. And that's why I find it interesting to take this in and think about it.
I just told the contrary. I don't think we have the facts. I think we have one vision on reality, which is not the fact. I think we build the facts. But yeah, I was just wondering about the possible intersection between criminological works and this work. I'm totally ready to agree that this would be realistic, but I just don't have any contact with this reality.
Okay, Bruno wanted to say.
Yeah, I'm a public historian, and at Ghent University we start this term in the course of public history activities on the question of history and imagination. If you change in your introduction, if you change criminology or with history, you have the same story. And we consume history very much by fiction, film, of course, but also literature, etc. Now the interesting thing is, to me, in the Flemish press some days ago was an article about a Dutch journalist working for the NRC Handelsblad, one of the leading quality papers in the Netherlands. He was their correspondent in China, and he's fired 2 days ago because in his journalism on China he just helped the facts a bit by what he did was, in fact, when he interviewed 4 people, he made 4 he fused them to one, because it's a way to tell the story, a better way to tell the story, and other very little things. But he's fired on the spot, because this is considered as not done in journalism, not done in covering reality. But we accept it very much in our perception of reality or the past, that we can learn something from fiction. So there's an interesting problem, I think. We do not accept it if we cover by journalism reality today. The journalist tries to change the facts a bit. He's not a good journalist. And I think that's a bit in the center of your question too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think also that one of the, because it's this interaction or overlap of working together of this fictional or more narrative, telling stories side, and the so-called academic side. Because in this movie, a lot of, let's say, classical criminological insights or theories are present, are mobilized. Not because these filmmakers are criminologists, far from there. So there is also this kind of relationship between what we think is hard and proven science, well, in criminology we can debate about that, but on the one hand, and the fact that there are some ideas, let's say popular criminology, they call it in the literature, about what is crime, how it exists, why these people do what they do, why the mother is a weak figure, how that impacts on, etc., etc. So there's a lot of criminological knowledge, if you want, that is told here in a very, in a way where it, I think, gets into the visions or the ideas people have about it and experience it when they see. That's why I said it will never be the same again if you go to the Gare du Nord. I mean, not because you would be afraid, but just because there is this kind of reference, or you would see a group of youngsters, and so this referencing, these images, they play a role, because we are maybe academics. I'm a criminologist working on youth, but I have also my experiences, and I'm not all the time thinking, oh yes, this is the, I don't have to worry because I can explain it. I mean, it doesn't work like that. And I find it interesting how these kind of images or theories or characters are part of popular culture about crime and justice, and how it comes that this sort of fictional domain is hugely popular. We all have a sort of, it's a very, commercially it's a very interesting domain. So that's also, I mean, there is something there, why people are kind of attracted to this kind of stories also. Yes, please go.
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your introduction, but I think you just mentioned the fact that the movie was shown to young people, maybe, or living in these parts of Brussels, because for this fiction, but I guess it's not completely by chance that it was filmed in Brussels, so there's a link to reality, and at the same time, I have no knowledge of that. I mean, about these facts, but so maybe then the question can be, what was the impact of showing this film, this in the same way as what could be the impact of our research when we try to just share it with I mean, in certain research, sometimes it can happen. You try to just confront and come back to the people when you do some investigations and try to explain what you. So I just wanted to maybe to hear some comments on the reaction, and was it the idea of the filmmakers to show it to people living in these places? As you said, it would not be the same. Or is this another kind of using this movie to achieve other goals, actually?
Well, that's why I used at my introduction this idea of the snake biting its own. It's a kind of there are a lot of layers in the story of the film. I would say that in the making of the film, the filmmakers, they both studied in Brussels. They are both from a migrant background, origin. They know what they talk about. They are recognized as being part of the ones they are, the story they are putting into the movie. So when it was the premiere of the film, it was in the center of Brussels, in the Cinema de Broecker, which is really, well. But suddenly there was a huge public. That in this cinema you have this public, but not like that. So it was really kind of sort of coming out of Molenbeek to the cinema of the Broecker.
When you look at the movie, you also a little bit feel like everything, all possible ingredients of one and other type of people or community are brought together. So it's a little bit too much of it, if I say it this way. I mean, I don't know if you understand what I mean, but it looks like really a portrait of. All possible characteristics of this kind of gang, for example, that are brought together in just one place.
Yeah, but if you know the work, it's the film. In fact, is based on two books of a youth literature writer, Dirk Brak, and he's known for his sort of research-based fictions, for example, on girls in institution, etc. So here again, it's a sort of fictional. It's a story of the gangs in Brussels. But on the other hand, we know also there is some colleagues of us at the KU Leuven. There is one. There's been a research on the gang in the film. On both gangs, there is material, research material. There's been done some research on these gangs, so it's not so far away. That's one of the, for me, but that's very personal experience with this kind of film. For me, as a criminologist and as knowing the literature, it's very bizarre, because it seems as if we don't say much more than what in this film they are kind of proposing. It's as if there is a sort of the poverty of criminology in talking about what these phenomena are. The contacts with the police, for example, the Molenbeek police station that is pictured here, that is all very, I mean, it's not so far away from from research for youngsters in their relationship with police is coming out in the insights we have there. Yes.
Okay, it's a completely different medium, and the film is full of citations. It's a really good piece of art. It's full of citations from different films, even I think sometimes even from tourism. I mean, the last sequence where the dying or the dead couple is looking at each other. I once shot in Portugal, and that's a very famous cathedral in the middle of Portugal, where the rising sort of dead couple supposed to look at each other when they come alive, when the paradise comes, etc. So and you know, these sort of announcing the music and the running and the dark station, that's film noir des années 50, début des années 50, and there's all this sort of thing, and it's sort of, and it's a little bit, of course, conventional criminological wisdom. It's not really, I mean, it's transporting this thing into this medium, and in that respect, it's a real good film. I did find it sometimes a little bit much of citating in the film, and the violence a bit exaggerated, but nevertheless,
the violence exaggerated.
It's a little bit. It looked a little bit like to be Quentin Tarantino to me. So,
yes, the reference is there, but okay.
In the back.
Yeah.
I'm a bit worried that I'm only simply historian, so
That's not
a problem. But if it's true what you say, that there's a kind of a resemblance between the outcome of scientific research on these areas and what is fiction, then we face a very grim future indeed. For me, it was the third time that I saw it, and this time I really,
sorry.
No, I'm not. You shouldn't sorry. I like this movie, but a very grim portrait of Brussels society is shown here, of course, and a very tribal portrait. And because the message in the end is that there is tribal warfare, and the people that are in between, at the end they are dead, or they're good policemen and they can't do anything. So you've got the bad policeman, the Flemish bad brute policeman, like the South African police.
It's also tribe history.
Yeah, tribe history. You see also. Ja, pasvriend! With that, when you think of films on the apartheid. On the other hand, the Moroccan gang and the black African gang, and all the people who are in between and are hopeful figures, or are weaks, or weaklings, or die at the end, or disappear, or not able to prevent that other people die. So the portrait that is shown here of Brussels and crime in Brussels by these filmmakers is a very ideological picture of Brussels. And so if you say that it's true, that's a very grim reality then. But that's my
No, but the thing I said about true is maybe not. The thing I said about true is a bit in response to what colleague Mink said, is that what is the way crime is depicted and performed, and the gang element, and the fact that they are operating in rather public spaces that we all know, etc., etc., and the stories of those two gangs, there is research on it that reflects it in a very close way. But that's maybe even something else than what you are saying at the moment of how these filmmakers, with this film, give an ideological image of what the situation of Brussels is, and what its future or possibilities for the future are. So that's maybe... Of course, it's just one story. I agree, but of course, yeah.
Just a question on factual elements. In the level of violence between the two gangs is very different. The Moroccans, they rob people, yeah, okay. See, but the black gang, they really group rape, weapons.
Unfortunately, real. Extreme violence.
Is this, does this reflect the reality of the existing gangs in Brussels?
The reality, these two, no, I mean, the two gangs pictured here are known, I mean, they really existed. Right? And there are some judicial files where members of the gangs were tried and put into prison and into the institution. So in that sense, yes, that's one of the things. If you would go and talk with the police of Brussels, they would make that difference between the African gang, especially the one that is stand as an example for this one, and the Moroccan gang, where it has to do with more small street crime, drugs also, but not necessarily this kind of other violence. And one of the suggestions that you have here, and that's an interesting one, is that these migrants from Africa have a traumatic past in their family or themselves, that it's kind of the explanation of why they are as they are. But I said it in the beginning, they use both cliches that referencing to the cinematographic history, and on the other hand, in a way, criminological referencing in the way they put it into cliches. But these cliches, that's the problem with cliches, they are not so far away from, let's say, the conclusions of certain scientific reports on these cases. Yes.
Just to...
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Moi, j'ai pas du tout le point de vue criminologique, mais je voulais quand même relayer l'étude et l'analyse qui a été faite par la sociologue Sarah Demar de l'UFB, qui est une des meilleures connaisseuses de Matongé et de la communauté afro-descendante. Ce film est quand même bourré de clichés racistes sur la communauté noire. C'est évident si vous regardez tout le film, la violence, le viol, les armes, qui en est dépositaire? Uniquement les Noirs. De l'autre côté, finalement, ce sont uniquement des Marocains qui volent, mais au fond, ils sont quand même un peu sympathiques parce que ils sont juste pris par la police et ils vont en prison, mais c'est pour des choses qui ne sont pas tellement graves en fait. Et à côté de ça, on a tous les clichés qui sont renforcés sur les afro-descendants noirs. C'est quand même une vue assez particulière quand on connaît les origines en plus des autres. Je voulais juste passer.
Ça c'est un procès d'intention, je pense. Oui.
Je pense que, si je peux, peut-être, je ne pense pas qu'on puisse qualifier de procès d'intention ce qui est une tentative d'analyse d'un média. Ça termine sur l'interrogation de la relation, mais je n'ai pas entendu faire d'hypothèse à ce sujet-là. Maintenant, je pense que ce qu'on voit ici, c'est qu'il y a quand même un danger. Ce qui est intéressant dans la fiction, c'est qu'elle est prenante. Ce qui est dangereux, c'est de toute éternité. Ce qui est dangereux dans la fiction, c'est qu'elle est prenante. C'est-à-dire que si on croit que la fiction est un miroir de la réalité, elle pose problème, exactement comme quand on croit que la science est un miroir de la réalité. C'est le même genre de difficulté, même si les déformations ne sont pas les mêmes. Et ici, par exemple, si ceci est une histoire, c'est pas forcément en soi un souci. Le problème, c'est quand on commence à avoir un doute et que, comme j'ai entendu dire, on considère que ça pourrait être une description de la société bruxelloise. Or, ce n'est pas une description de la société bruxelloise, c'est une description d'une histoire qui a pu se produire éventuellement, ou dont on peut imaginer qu'elle pourrait se produire au sein d'une société bruxelloise dont en fait on ne voit pas 99,999% des constituants. Donc c'est juste...
Mais c'est justement ça que le film fait, quoi. En fait, il nous fait... Non, mais il nous fait capter quand même... On n'est pas tout le temps en train de dire ceci est de la fiction. On est dans l'histoire, on capte des choses et des...
Donc je ne dis pas que c'est un problème en soi, je dis juste que c'est le cadrage. Et tantôt, ce que tu disais était intéressant dans cet appel à la modestie des criminologues en disant finalement qu'est-ce qu'on sait de plus que les gens qui ont assisté à ça. Et en fait, d'une part c'est logique, parce que qu'est-ce qu'on est, nous, à part des collecteurs d'informations sur des mondes qu'on, généralement, au départ, on connaît finalement assez peu, que ce soit parce qu'ils sont loin géographiquement, loin socialement, loin historiquement aussi, sans doute pour les historiens. Donc c'est logique qu'on aille glaner chez eux le savoir que eux ont et que nous n'avons pas. Mais sans doute notre tâche là-dedans, c'est la contextualisation et c'est l'indication de la diversité des autres situations. Et ça, c'est ce par quoi commence à mon sens toute recherche, c'est par dire tout ce qu'elle ne dira pas. Ce que ne peut pas faire un film. Le film ne peut pas dire, attention, ceci n'est qu'une histoire, des milliers de gens vivent paisiblement et mangent des tomates crevettes tous les soirs sans s'inquiéter. Ce que je veux dire, c'est que ça n'est pas faisable dans la fiction. Et donc, ce qui est intéressant ici, c'est sans doute l'articulation entre les deux regards.
Oui, mais c'est pour ça que, par exemple, dans des films ou même dans des romans, tu as parfois comme ça la mention que toute ressemblance avec qui que ce soit, blablabla. Non, mais c'est justement, ça c'est quand même aussi, c'est intéressant, c'est justement dans ce sens-là, c'est pas pour rien qu'il y a des questions ici sur, oui, bon, c'est une histoire, c'est pas 1000 histoires, donc hein, il faut d'abord former, pour la diversité, c'est une histoire, c'est vrai, enfin, mais ce qui est intéressant, moi je trouve, c'est de quelle façon cela travaille en général avec des gens qui regardent le film, qui ont tous des expériences, enfin des Bruxellois, des non-Bruxellois, etc. Qu'est-ce que ça fait? Et moi, ce qui m'intéresse aussi, qu'est-ce que ça fait à des scientifiques, des chercheurs qui ont un bagage qui est de toute façon nuancé, la complexité, etc. Mais on est un peu pris là, enfin, c'est ça la provocation qui nous avait fait aussi dans le débat, je trouvais ça... enfin, ça me fait réfléchir, en tout cas, aussi au niveau de... On discute toujours du output des chercheurs, la publication, c'est quoi l'impact de notre recherche, discussion avec le ministre, etc. Bon, il y a plein de choses là qui nous tracassent quand même. Et d'un autre côté, oui, c'est ce type de production, de performance... qui a une toute autre façon de véhiculer ou d'avoir un impact, avec en fait des éléments qui nous sont très proches. C'est pour ça que je disais aussi, il y a des données ou des résultats de recherche qui sont presque des références ici, mais je suis sûre que ce n'est pas le cas, je veux dire, pas littéralement en tout cas. Yeah?
Yeah, I was also thinking of what we don't get to see in a movie. For example, at one point the protagonist's brother is convicted to 3 months or so, but we never see him appearing in front of the judge. So you never see the whole legal aspect. You don't even see prison life, you only see the part where the room where you meet family and friends. At the very start of the film, the protagonist is running alongside the palais de justice and we don't even get to see the palais de justice. So I think this is also telling for what the message might be, and there, of course there's a message, and the two filmmakers wanted to put a message. The film stops, and then you get the little phrase, I didn't read it, but it says something about the number of people killed. So they're focusing on gangs, and it's the fault of the gangs in a way. But I thought, linking back to what Ton said, society has, or our society has more to offer than just these policemen who are indeed portrayed as what we call in Flemish a couple of Dutsen. I mean, they're not really that powerful. Well, yeah, okay, in the end they get a bit of a heroic part from that. It's more the Champetre with the, you know, so we have more, society has more to offer than what is shown.
And then you are thinking of the judge and prison when more.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the prison here is depicted as a sort of hotel where you go in for 3 months.
I know.
Well,
Yeah, maybe you see that. I don't know. But I think if I just may react to this last sentence, with artists, I think we have to be careful when they say since 2002, 22 people have died, and it's as if that is the message, but that's a bit too upfront. I think. I think that's taking us as a public also a bit. Maybe we are lured in something. Maybe the message is somewhere else in the film. Xavier.
I agree with Stefan's reflection about the missing part of the picture, like the justice. And for me, it's a movie on revenge, and clearly the traditional myth of Romeo and Julieta, but revisited in a totally other context, even a social context. It's totally cultural balance because it's a revenge between people from the bottom and not from the top. But it's the connection with this little phrase, 22 people died in 2002, and 22 is 10% of the homicide in Belgium. So it's an criminological information just at the end of the movie. And the question for the filmmakers, why they had this phrase to connect to the real situation and not they let the movie as a movie function, as an American movie.
Yes, I think that's why they wanted really to go to Hollywood, so they made an American movie. No, but that's a joke. But I find it interesting the remark about the fact that justice is not so visible in this movie, as if it is sort of, and then so this movie is about revenge. It is also about revenge, but I'm not sure.
If you try to make a movie with all the elements in it, it's a bad movie. In the bicentennial of the French Revolution, they asked academics to make movies about it. They are horrible. After 10 minutes you can't follow because there are so much. A good movie is a good movie. Yeah. And what we have to do as academics, what I try to do as an historian is point to good historical movies, and this apparently is a good movie about crime in Brussels, because criminologists here in the room say, hey, it's an interesting movie. That's what we have to do. Interesting movie, because they tell something, but it's of course not academic history they want to do. That's something completely different. So don't mix the...
No, but the fact that the justice apparatus, if I may say so, is not so visible, I could also read it as that this absence is significant and says something about how it is in this story and maybe in everyday life in Brussels and in wherever, that there is a distance, and that when the most important part plays where the contact with police, for example, which is rather present. But I agree, you can't tell everything what a criminologist does on gangs, for example. I don't think if you want to put everything in it, that's not a good movie, an academic one. Yes.
Sorry, again, I just wanted to point the great interest of bad movies. really, as a sociologist, it's really interesting because they say a lot about what we think justice, crime, police can be, should be, what we fear they could become, and so on. So, Police Academy 7 could also be a very interesting source, but to get other informations, just like I guess historians can read old novels and say this is happy literature, but it says a lot about the themes, the fears, the dreams of the people, and so on. So, yeah.
Yes, because I wouldn't even say that. I'm not sure if this is a good movie, just as a movie. Yeah, but we can, maybe I've seen other movies that I think I like more than this one. But on the other hand, I found it interesting when I saw it the first time is that precisely it wants to make these references, especially to the American kind of tradition of urban conflict movies. And it's such a cliche. I mean, this movie is really from the beginning to the end is a cliche, mobilizes the one cliche after another, but it works in a way, and that's bizarre if you want to take this as a source of popular culture seriously. So it works. So there is something with these cliches that makes it interesting.
It depends on what you mean by it works. I mean, I did like the film because after a few moments, I allowed myself to fall into the citations, which were all the time there. And I think an interesting research question would be not whether it's reality or not, but for example, to compare it with West Side Story, which is another gang warfare media production, or with other films like there's recently a film about Glasgow, a similar subject, etc., in black and white. Fascinating film to do this sort of, and what these sort of films or these perceptions or say about society. It's much more interesting than whether these are real facts about gang warfare and this sort of thing.
I agree. Yeah, it's not about facts. It's real.